Anthony Edwards ends up winning the league MVP and winning an NBA championship within the next 3 to 4 years, Ron, especially the way he's playing and becoming the face of the league, I promise you there is going to be real conversation that he is the best player in the league. Ron, you remember how I felt about Donovan Mitchell, and I talk about him being the best two guard in the game. I got to start talking about Anthony Edwards' progression and how much better he's gotten at a lot of different things that he wasn't. So to Penn's point, his court mapping, not only his court mapping, I got to pay attention. I paid attention a lot to him surveying the defense and his ability to pass. Like, he made a bunch of passes last night that I was impressed with. And I don't know what it is, real talk, maybe in the minority, but there's a right elbow on the floor that it looks like Anthony Edwards is falling in love with. And it looks like when he gets to that spot, it looked like it's money. And I'm loving every bit of it. So I'm liking the transformation of Anthony Edwards' game. He's just getting better as time goes on. And he was great last night. On top of that, Ron, can we acknowledge the adult on the New York Knicks, who is not Cat, but that point guard that they got in Kolek? That's a grown-up. Like, a lot of people look at him like with the baby. No, that's a grown-up. He was the best point guard in the country coming out of college. He understands the game. I thought he did a great job in taking care of the ball. I thought he did a great job in getting downhill and navigating that offense. I just thought that I felt like the Knicks, their rotation guys weren't as good as Minnesota's yesterday. That was the difference in the game. And the rebounding is what killed them.
For me, Anthony Edwards right now is the best show in the league for me personally. These players, he's becoming what the face of the league has been kind of since Jordan, maybe discounting like Shaq, but like the 2-3 guard wing who is combining great skills with unique athleticism, right? He's probably the best blend of the two right now. So he has like the skills. You see the handle that he's developed over the years. You see the pull-up three that he's developed. You see the post-up work that he has now. You see the mid-range game that he has. But what also just makes him a great watch is the eye-popping athleticism. You seen him. There was a play chill where he chases Mikal Bridges over the screen, right? He does his job as an off-ball defender, you know, the stuff that everybody says he can't do. Navigates the screen well, stays attached, and then gets the stick, and then goes and punches it on the other end. Like, his athleticism, the skill, is to me is the best show in basketball right now. And, you know, many of y'all know I have him as a top 5 player in the association right now. He, you know, proved that yet again to me last night.
Who's your top 5?
My top 5 is Shea, in no specific order. My top 5 is Shea, Jokic, Giannis, Luka, and
that's a nice 5.
It's a nice 5. Nice 5. But I think, Chill, to your point, if you don't watch the games, you can't see Anthony Edwards' development the way you should see it. Like, you can look at the box score and he's got 40, he's got 38. But when you see the decision making, when you see that he turns the ball over less, when you see he's not running over guys, when you see from the elbow he's using the glass, you know, all these different little nuances means that this man's maturing, his game's maturing. But I take your point as well to Tyler Kolek. He's turning into one of the best stories in the league this season. So I love to see those guys emerge. But unfortunate for Cat as well. Cat's best game of the season, but resulted in a loss. So
I do agree to Real Talk's point. That was a face of the league game from Anthony Edwards. It does very much feel like, I wish that game was on TV last night where more people could have watched it. It does very much feel like he's an MVP or a finals away from actually being the face of the league. He's got the shoes, the commercials. People like him for the most part. Unlike some of the better players in the league, they don't really like their personalities. But the 38, the next step in his game was always like, can he pass out of double teams? Can he make the right read? He's getting a lot better at doing that. It does feel like he was knocking on the door those last 2 years. If he can get like an MVP or a championship, this is the next face of the league. Because he's going to remind so many people of like MJ, Kobe, just the athleticism, the two-guard position, the two-way ability, and he's just a fun watch. That is a fun 38 points. Some of these star players like a Tatum, no offense, it's low-key a boring 38. That is a fun 38. And it does feel like to be the face of the league, you need a couple accolades, and that's across all sports. If he can get a few, it's Anthony Edwards for the taking.
It's crazy that he's saying this, but when I said that we're in year 2 of year 5, that I think he's going to be the best guard in the league. I don't think he's going to be the best 2 guard. I think he's going to be the best guard in the league. Y'all jumped me like I was getting initiated into the Bloods.
I don't.
Casual never said that.
I don't.
But Casual didn't say that. He said he'll be the face of the league. You don't have to be the best player in the league to be the face of the league.
That is true. That is true. They usually coincide, but you don't have to. You don't.
Well, wait. Let me ask him though. Let's figure it out. Do you think over the next 3 years, Ant will be better than SGA?
No.
That can happen. That is on the table.
People got why is that
It's
ridiculous?
not unrealistic,
That's
but
number
probably
one.
not. But it's
Why?
it's not unrealistic.
Do you think he'll be better
Is he
than
going to be
Luka?
better than Wemby though? No.
He might be better than Luka after this season.
Over the next 3
God.
seasons, do you think he'll be better than Luka?
It's on the table.
That's on the table for sure.
I don't know if he
I'm not
will.
saying it's
Yeah.
off the
That's been
table.
on
I'll take
that's
yes
been
on
on the
that.
I
table
wanna
for the
take
past
yes
2
on that.
seasons.
It's
That's
definitely
been
on
on
the
the
table.
table. I was trying to tell you that real talk. It's been on the table. But now,
No,
now
I
that-
am
now
a
that-
believer of
now that-
Anthony
Now that you done
Edwards.
switched up on Luka, now
No, I'm not switching up on. No,
I think
I am a
Ant's-
believer of Anthony Edwards because
And then
he
Luka's
has.
close this year, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
it's been close.
When I say it though, I'm a hater. What Anthony Edwards has against the Lukas and the Shades of the world is if he can continue to get better as far as his skill level and his understanding of the game.
Yeah.
What takes him over them is the generational athleticism that they don't possess.
Yeah.
That gives him more access to stuff on the court and in the game than those two. That is the athleticism is a lot of times what separates the greats from the all-time greats, right? It's not a
Going to be a better defender
a
than both as
mistake.
well.
Yeah, it's not a mistake that LeBron and MJ are considered the GOATs. Yes, their skill sets are amazing, but it's also because what takes them over the top is their S-tier athletes on top of it. And that's what Anthony Edwards has. So I think his ceiling is definitely could be up there with an SGA, with the Luka Doncic, because of his S-tier athleticism, if you combine that with the skill. Absolutely.
Why y'all letting
And
Ron?
I was really-
Ron, really quickly, Damian. I promise, really quickly. Ron, guards in the league, and since you've been watching the NBA, guards in the league that have been the face of the league. Name them.
Guard
Name
in
the
league?
guards. Name the guards in the league that have been the face of the league since you've been watching.
Jordan, Kobe,
Best player in the league.
Steph.
Best player in the league. Best player in the league.
What years
Whoa.
was Kobe the best player in the league?
Exactly.
We're not finna do this.
But-
We're
I'm-
not.
Are we gonna do this real talk?
Hey,
Are we gonna do this real talk?
2004 to
Steph?
2009.
Okay. Best player in the league. Keep going.
Okay.
And Steph.
Okay.
But
So
Steph was never the best player in the league.
okay, he was never undisputed the best player in the
Yeah.
league.
But you
But
could be like
there was
number
definitely-
2. You could be like
there was
second best player in the league.
There was definitely the conversation that Steph was the best player in the league. I say that to say, to Casual's point, if Anthony Edwards ends up winning the league MVP and winning an NBA championship within the next 3 to 4 years, Ron, especially the way he's playing and becoming the face of the league, I promise you there is going to be real conversation that he is the best player in the league. Not the
yeah.
best guard in the league,
Yeah.
the best player in the league.
Yeah.
Chill, here's my thing, which I'm not saying that I do agree with Real Talk. I'm a little lower on Anthony Edwards than you guys, but I do agree on Real Talk where if everything works out, he could potentially peak just as high as these guys, and he could enter that all-time great conversation. But I do want to say, Jason Tatum won a championship.
Yeah, but
He
they
got
don't like
all
Jason
NBA
Tatum's
3-4 teams in a row.
And Jason Tatum's not a fun electric watch.
Yeah, but here's the
No,
thing.
no,
as
no. I'm
well.
not. I'm
Here's the
not. I'm
thing
not
as
talking
well.
about face of the league. I'm not talking about face of the league.
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about best player in the league.
Mhm.
I'm
Okay.
talking about he
Here's
won. He won a
here's the thing,
championship.
though.
He got all NBA 4 years in a row, 3 years in a row, whatever it was. He never sniffed the best player in the league conversation. Anthony Edwards can do the same thing and never sniff the best player in the league convo. He like it's. I just
I
don't
think
know if we'll
especially
get
as
there.
well,
with him.
Ron. With Ron as well, especially like after this season, it's going to be hard to be the best player in the league when Wemby's going to continue to get better. I think that's going to be really difficult. Like face of the league, yeah, best in the world. I think it's going to be hard when Wemby's getting better and better.
It'll be a cheat code,
But two-
Damian. He's
Yeah,
just
but two- I think-
How is Wemby going to get better at what?
at defense,
Nah, he's got a lot. He's got a lot to
Offense.
grow offensively, I think.
Yeah.
at
But I
offense.
think if we're staying on Ant,
And
if
he
we're
was-
staying on Ant,
he
my,
wanted
my
to be
thing
a
was
shooting guard.
my thing with Ant was I was really impressed with Ant in the OKC game. In the clutch, when he can hit threes, when he can get to the rim, when he can also lock up the other team's best player. Real talk, to your point, that's what made LeBron so good. That's what made Kawhi Leonard so good in his prime. That's why we were so impressed with Kevin Durant when he went to Golden State, because the two-way stuff can put some of these guys over the edge. Man, if Anthony Edwards can be that, then we can start having some crazy conversations, man.
Yeah, and I want to dispel something very quick. Like, we have to get off this Anthony Edwards lack of playmaking talking point that if you're watching the game is so outdated. When I originally made my top 5 offensive player list that Ron asked me, and I said, yeah, and my argument was Ant is drawing so much attention. When you watch them play, bro, they're gap helping with Ant. They're pre-rotating as well. Like he's shifting the entirety of that defense. And then all of a sudden, Ron puts in the chat this stat, which I don't know exactly what it is. And stats are not all encompassing, but Ant was like number 3 on the list. As this gravity stat that Ron put up. Like if you watch him play,
I'll go ahead.
he bends defenses. And you don't even, when you bend defenses to that extent, you don't have to be this S-level tier passer because the passes are simple. When you bend the defense that much, yeah, the guy right next to you is wide open. But yeah, make that pass. It's not a hard pass. Or a lot of the times what you see happening in Minnesota is Ant gets a lot of hockey assists. So he'll make the read, he'll pass it to the open player, and then the defense rotates, they make the extra pass, and then boom, you get a shot. Like if you watch Minnesota play, he's generating a lot of good offense for that team. I really don't understand the Ant playmaking point.
It's the panel. Religion get built on cam. Where the check throw smoke and the host go ham. You ain't never seen hoops out hit the raw. Every take got weight, every night we drop. Yeah, this that barbershop. Courtside, worldwide tone. Welcome to the only show that really feel like numbers jumping like the score.